And welcome in to another episode of Making a Mark on the Tell Me More podcast. I'm your host, Mac Moore. We got the same crew. We got Wade Christensen. We got Ethan Raby. How's it going, guys?
Not too bad. I think I'm allergic to this cat, though.
Good. How are you?
The cat that you've had forever?
Well, only when she's like right here, invading my personal space. Yeah.
I guess that's fair.
She does her own thing. She just kind of like living with a ghost. You just kind of hear noises at night, and you know.
Well, we got Wade down there with his fancy new gear. He's got some real professional lighting. He's coming in strong. Wade, this podcast might not even have happened if the person who I thought least likely to jump on didn't send a message saying when are we recording this podcast. So TLC recap. Anybody who was excited to see it and is joining us today, thank Wade and think. Are you more excited about what happened on Sunday, or are you more excited about showing off your fancy new equipment?
I just wanted to show off my new tripod and my ring light. Like, I feel like a real influencer.
Yep. To all three people who tune in. So we're going to get started. This is probably the first non-Big Four pay-per-view where I was excited to talk about it. Now, I lost that excitement as life kicked the shit out of me over the last 3 days. But otherwise, I left.
Yeah, I don't think
Sunday
that's
night.
wrestling. I don't think that's wrestling's fault. I think that's just
No, but normally that's what wrestling does. So the same
Yeah.
feeling has happened. I'm trying to make sure our audience knows, not because of wrestling this time, which was a big surprise to me. But I was super psyched when that was over, and I saw on social media how much people freaked out, and we'll talk a little bit. I assume most of this podcast will be about the final match, Randy Orton versus the Fiend in an Inferno match, which I didn't know. I have not been watching wrestling. I didn't know it was happening probably until halfway through TLC because I wasn't listening to any of the commentary. I was just watching matches. I'm like, this is a pretty fun night. And then at some point, that's like Inferno match. I'm like, wait, what? All right, I'm fucking in. And I don't believe it disappointed, but it was a divisive ending. And I don't know how that's possible, but apparently it was. So I'm not going to assume I know what you guys felt. I just want to hear it from you. We're going to start at the top of the card, which is opposite of what we end up doing most of the time. I'm going to start with Wade. That's the one I'm most excited to hear about. I need to know. I gots to know. Wade, what did you think of that match between Randy Orton and The Fiend?
Man, I mean, you see some pictures of a motherfucker on fire floating around Twitter, and you're like, I gotta watch this. I wasn't disappointed. I thought it was weird that it took so long for the flames to turn on. For something called an Inferno match, like it was like 15 minutes go by before the flame. I was just like, oh yeah, something's gonna set on fire. That's the whole reason I'm watching this. They did a great job. I mean, like there was a certain point Bray Wyatt was actually on fire. Like there was flames coming off of him. Like I was just, oh, he's losing dreadlocks, man. Like those things are just going up like kindling. And then, like, I don't know. I thought Randy Orton did a pretty good job of not making it look cheesy. And it's one of those moments where, like, Randy Orton gives a shit. So guess what? We're probably gonna have a fucking match come out of it, and he's not gonna put on his poo-poo face like all of his like the previous encounter with Bray Wyatt, which fucking sucked. And I think it's kind of cool that they went back to it and they showed it and they just left out all the shitty parts and just showed Randy Orton burning down the house, which was the only cool part of that whole fucking feud. But now it's just like, what happens with Bray Wyatt now? Like, he just turned into, like, now he's Bray Wyatt with a mask that just loses to everybody. I hope he comes back with a new look. I think he kind of has to after being set on fire. Like, you can't come back with the same gear after you just burn up in the middle of a ring, can you?
I mean, you can, but
Yeah, you can.
like,
I think you can.
So I guess this is the first thing I asked because I think what a lot of people had said afterwards, past the just cool moment, it was. I think it's hard to argue that it wasn't really well done. They finally decided.
Oh, there he goes.
They finally decided to just fuck with us with the live. Like, at some point, they got rid of it, but it was there for most of the match live, even though the match was taped, I think, like Saturday. So using that to trick us, where it's like, well, what kind of cool stuff are you going to do? Well, you can't, put a dummy in the ring to burn up if you're running live. Well, as it turns out, they were lying to us, which I love. I think in wrestling particularly, I don't know how much they open themselves up for lawsuits when they allow that live marker to be in the corner during a taped shoot. But I think that all of that worked really well. And then for the finish, people were complaining that okay, yeah, that happened, but now what does the Fiend do? He committed murder. And we'll talk about the two parts of it, the kayfabe aspect, where it's where do you go from Randy Orton murdering Bray Wyatt, murdering the Fiend? And then it was, okay, also, where does this character go? And for me, yeah, I think the whole point is he's supernatural. I think that's the thing you get to, which is it's fun to joke about Randy Orton murdering somebody, but it's also important that, okay, it's the same way Undertaker would get buried alive or get burned up. And if we're not going to talk about it the same way, if we've somehow gotten to this point where we're not going to accept the kayfabe aspect of this character, then why the hell have we watched Undertaker walk out for a dozen matches over the last decade? We should have gave up on that a long time ago. It doesn't get grandfathered in, and we allow ourselves to understand he's the dead man. And it's that was cool. The moment that the Fiend does it, it's I don't like the supernatural shit. I just want Bray Wyatt. He can do weird shit with the face. He can have the whole gimmick, but he's a normal person who's supposed to be Bray Wyatt dressed up. It's if that's what fans are going to do, it's going to ruin a lot of good shit that can happen with the Fiend going forward.
So how many fans are doing that though? I don't think it's the majority. I think it's if anyone is rolling their eyes at the supernatural ability of the Fiend, I think that it's a very small percentage that isn't going to have an effect on anything really. I think that my understanding is widely appreciated. I mean, I
think there's a good percentage that rolled their eyes. Then there's a good percentage who are talking about it from that, the idea that what do you do with this character now that he got burned up? So it was both. It's not completely against it, but there were people that were where do you go from here?
But the where do you go from here should be more excited rather than yeah, well, now what are you going to do? It's I'm sorry, every character in the WWE that's ever been set on fire has only come back stronger. It's a rocket strap move. It's something that
I don't think. How many fit into this category? How many did we get to watch completely burn up, and we watched as the body burnt to a crisp?
Oh, that's
a little bit different.
That's just gonna make it that much cooler. He's gonna come back, and I imagine this runs to a Mania program at this point, and the timing of everything. So I'm here for it. I think it's dope. I think that was probably the best style of an Inferno match. I don't know if this is the first time that they've done it that way, where they have kind of just the different flames kind of scattered rather than just being a bar around the perimeter of the ring. But I thought it looked cool as hell, and it made that match style, I think, less limited. And then the only thing I could think of too was hearing Undertaker's story of every time you get those big plumes where all the flames go at once, just sucks all the oxygen out of the room. So that happening continuously in that match is God, wearing a mask on top of that too has got to be exhausting. But yeah, with an Inferno match, it's one of those areas that's so hard to do right without it being campy. While this was very unbelievable to look at and watch, and it but I think that's what a lot of wrestling fans miss about wrestling is it's cool when you make it very close to being real and you kind of blur the lines. It's also cool when you go the opposite direction and make things supernatural and do it the way they did it. So I think that this is the best possible outcome for this match.
Yeah, and I think that you're talking about like keep it like super gritty and real, take it over the top. They found like kind of best of both worlds with this one. They allowed them to fight a
Yeah.
match the way that we kind of describe AEW in that the WWE main brand almost never does. And in this case, they did. And I know there were reports going in that Vince McMahon, based on kind of the hemorrhaging numbers for Raw, wanted to start putting on a grittier product, which we've heard things like that before, and it's always awful immediately. Like sometimes it builds up to something better, but never is it like this, mandate comes down from Vince and the next thing we know, things are good. This one was immediately like it was exactly what this match needed to be. It was exactly what the Fiend needed, considering my biggest problem with them, like it's like the opposite of what the problem was with WWE. Like WWE can put on good pay-per-views and their weekly product has been bad for a very long time. Bray Wyatt is the only thing good happening on the weekly programming. What he does with his promos, what he brings to the table is the only thing interesting. And then you get to a pay-per-view match with the Fiend, and other than the cinematic match back at WrestleMania with John Cena, and then I don't know if there's another one. I'm trying to think. Like at most there were ones that I didn't hate, and then there were a lot more that I hated. Like that's where Bray Wyatt and the Fiend has ended up for so long. This was the first one that it was like this was so good. It left like I still didn't watch Raw on Monday because I didn't have time. But if there was something that's going to push me back in, there's something like I need to know. Like I was checking updates to like figure it out. I had to make sure. Okay, is it going to be Bray back on TV? No, I see photos of it. Randy Orton in the ring with Alexa Bliss still doing her thing. It's like, all right, I'm going to need to check that out and see what happens. Because the only thing that could really mess this up, it's not that the Fiend needs to change his clothing. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. It's that the Fiend and Bray Wyatt can't show up immediately. And if Bray Wyatt does show up anytime soon, the Fiend can't show up for a long fucking time. And he does have to change his clothing. Now, I guess that's like my middle ground is like, I think the Fiend can show up again as this like boogeyman that you can't keep down. It still shouldn't be quickly. It should be saved for a pay-per-view. But I also think that you do need to change the character if it is just going to be Bray Wyatt showing up the next night.
Right.
Like you didn't kill me, you killed the Fiend. Well, then at that point, it is important to give the Fiend something new, something different. But otherwise, I think if you just have Alexa Bliss like stalking Randy Orton, you do something similar to what Bray did to John Cena a few years back when they had the WrestleMania match. If you can do that with Bray just, scaring the shit out of Randy Orton, I don't think you have to change the Fiend. I think you just have to keep them off TV. We can't see Bray Wyatt and the Fiend for a long time until the Fiend comes back to get his revenge on Randy Orton. That's my take. And Wade, you've been gone for a while, but I'll let you
guys. You guys, I can hear you.
Perfect. So
it's a Christmas miracle.
Jesus. It's like
got me drinking.
It's like Sandra Bullock getting lost in space, just gradually drifting further and further away from being able to contact Houston.
All right,
oh my God.
So Wade, we'll let you jump in with that idea. You were the one who brought up he needs to change his costume. My middle ground was I don't think that has to be the case, but it's if Bray Wyatt is still running around and being like, well, you just killed the Fiend, you didn't kill me, or you set the Fiend on fire, not me. And if Bray Wyatt shows up anytime soon, then I do feel like the Fiend has to have some sort of change, or it becomes
in evolution.
Yeah.
I mean, the Undertaker got set on fire, but he came back and was cooler. And like anytime something devastating happens to a character and they leave for, I don't know. I mean, he wasn't on Monday Night Raw, so he at least missed a show. There is an absence of him. He should come back stronger. I mean, like the way he was on fire at the end of that, like yes, it was obviously a mannequin, whoopity doo, but like that was some shit straight out of a horror movie, man. Like and like if I've learned anything from Friday the 13th, Jason's gonna come back a little gnarlier. Like there's gonna be an axe wound in his head. There's gonna be something like there's gonna be something like to know that like he went through some shit. Like,
I don't know.
he
There were
become-
10 films, and there were a few that they kind of skipped on changing the wardrobe too much. They just brought him back kind of looking the same, but like he was left in a lake for
Right.
a few more days.
Yes,
Like his
yes.
his tights are just going to be a little shorter with like singe marks on the end.
Singe marks. Yeah, they got to do something with those dreadlocks. Just one still on fire, maybe. But yeah,
He
something
just
cool's
has
got to
one
happen. I
dreadlock
like it.
left.
Just one, and it's
Just
on
one.
fire. Just like a fuse, a really gross fuse.
Ugh, okay.
Yeah, whatever the thing is, I'm fine with it. I just know that the other point I made while you had come in and out of the podcast, Wade, was this was the first time I can remember since the Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania that I felt like a Bray Wyatt pay-per-view match was good. Like, and there were some that weren't bad, but most of them were bad. And this is the first one where I left and I was like, yes, the same way that I'm excited for what he brings to the table on a weekly show, but it never pays off at a pay-per-view. They finally exceeded my expectations for what a Fiend pay-per-view match should be.
Like, it was a loss that didn't make him look like a complete shit show. Like, it wasn't like, oh, he got beat by a spear.
I
Like-
love the WWE because getting emulated is going to literally do better for your career than losing to like a jackhammer.
Yeah,
I mean, if he was on fire during the jackhammer, but in this case, he took a flaming RKO and then got covered in gasoline and lit up. And I think all of it, and that was good too. Wade mentioned it earlier.
The only negative outcome of this match that I'm just now realizing is once the Saudi shows are back on, MBS is going to be like, you can light people on fire. It's like, oh, okay, every match is now an Inferno match in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
you said it was a bad
beheading match.
Bone saw and a pole match.
Jesus Christ! To get this back on track a little bit. I think the way it played out, Wade mentioned it earlier, it wasn't just the finish. Like, it was a good match that, through and through, they both got some good hits on each other. The way they played up the flames, it was like, you almost forgot. You're like, I'm watching a normal good match. Oh, yeah, this is an Inferno match. They turn the flames on. They have the flames coming out of everywhere. They're coming out from behind the LEDs. The way they designed it, and they designed it without, like, what normally happens, it's very gimmicky. It's like, oh, we built this flame over here. You guys have to build up a spot that leads over that. No, let them fight normally and let everything around them just be chaotic. And that's so much better. Worked out so well because then, it's like, even for a second where the Fiend has the pickaxe, I'm just like, well, this is going to be stupid. But he slams it into something, rips it off, and bam, it's back to a handle, which, once again, we can believe you're going to use an axe handle to beat the holy hell out of somebody. Yeah. So even that part, they didn't, linger on it too long and got it back to being just, these are two men beating the hell out of each other, or one man and some demon. And yeah, from the way they build that up, if we're going to keep talking about Bray Wyatt and the Fiend becoming the next Undertaker, if there really is this passing of the torch, no better time than after Undertaker does his Survivor Series send-off. Like, do something that's actually on the level of anything the Undertaker did to get over the way he did. And, whatever the reason is, if it's dwindling Raw ratings, which I think I just saw, like, they peaked up this week, which I have to imagine it's because of all the pictures on the internet of the Fiend, lit aflame. But
yeah,
whatever the reason, they're on the right path.
Is basically just 4chan, like Wade said earlier. Oh, there's a motherfucker on fire. I'm going to go watch that.
Yeah. There's a reason the only Law and Order that's left on the air is the worst one.
Fuck. Yeah. So yeah. I like I said, we could probably talk about the Fiend for 40 minutes. If we have time at the end, we might circle back and do a long-term booking. Which every other time we did it, we would just say things that were not attached to the current storyline because nothing that was happening with Bray Wyatt or the Fiend made sense or was aimed at anything we wanted to see. Now it seems like this could lead somewhere great, so we might circle back. But I want to talk about the other things of the pay-per-view because I did think it was a pretty good pay-per-view. It wasn't like they just salvaged a shit show with flames at the end. Knowing that Roman had to go on first kind of told you something gnarly was going to happen in the main event, and also the fact that Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens put on a hell of a show. I think I've heard people complain that they didn't believe the story. It's like there's more emotion attached to Roman Reigns going after the Usos. And then when it's Kevin Owens, it was just kind of like, pull a name out of a hat and throw it in there. But, I think from how little I saw just from seeing the video package and from knowing I love Kevin Owens, so I don't care. If he's a prize fighter getting himself back into the prize fight, trying to win the championship, I love that. And, if you're going to pick somebody that's going to run into the buzzsaw that is Roman Reigns, which is what he's been as a heel, the whole point is watching Roman Reigns beat the living hell out of people. If you tuned in because you wanted a surprise or you wanted the possibility like, oh, I think this person can win, if you didn't think Kevin Owens put on a performance that at least made you think, not thinking long-term booking where it's like Roman's never losing this belt, like it's going to be till WrestleMania. But if you just go from the show they put on, I bought into this being a real fight. I bought into what they were doing. And at the end of the day, it's Roman Reigns getting to beat the hell out of somebody who's so good at selling, getting the hell beat out of him. Kevin Owens turned this into a match much better. Like, I enjoyed the emotional side of Roman Reigns and Jey Uso going at it. But this was the better match. This is the best match Roman's had in a very long time in terms of work rate and just going from beginning to end, putting on a hell of a show. It helps it being a TLC, but we've also seen a lot of TLC matches at the TLC pay-per-view suck balls because it's all the same matches. Yeah. These guys came in, they used the match type to their advantage, and they put on a hell of a show. Ethan, we'll start with you. What do you think of this match? You guys are both the resident Kevin Owens mark, so I can't even use that as the segue. But starting with you, how'd you feel about somebody with your same body type coming in and trying to go up against the man, the head of the table, Roman Reigns?
It's a good thing to see. It's it's encouraging. No, this is my favorite match on the night. And I think that, we had a conversation in our group chat the other night of like, it was a little bit different, but more like, how do you book that first, title match after, somebody who's clearly going to carry the belt for a long time? How do you book their for next couple matches? And, this just being a barn burner, this match was brutal. And, the whole story of it made Kevin Owens look better in the long run. This is one of those title matches that gave you what you want to see, which is both guys looking good at the end. This match didn't set Kevin Owens back at all. It's what you want to see out of a title reign too. That's why, the way the stories are told in WWE, it's different. But how we talked about, Okada's title run, is lengthy title run in New Japan, of everyone who he faced came out looking better on the other end. And this could be something that so far Roman Reigns is 2 for 2. He made Jey Uso look a lot better as an individual single star, and I think that it was a big boost for Kevin Owens as far as where do you put him next. And this match was a really good TLC match too. That utilized the criteria perfectly, and the whole, can barely keep Kevin Owens down long enough to win this match was a great story to tell. That's the whole thing, is the build-up maybe didn't tell a great story. The video package wasn't as in-depth as it could have been for other matches, but the actual match told a fantastic story. So, yeah, that's match of the night for me.
All right, Wade, similar response to Kevin Owens trying to go up against basically a 2-on-1 match, a handicap match going against Roman Reigns and Jey Uso.
I wouldn't give it match of the night, but it's definitely second place for sure. At this point, I'm not even sure why Roman Reigns needs Paul Heyman in this. Roman's been so great and such a good heel. Old Roman needed Paul Heyman. The Roman now, the Roman that we got right now, he doesn't need Paul Heyman at all. He's badass enough on his own. It was great to see, it was great to be reminded that Kevin Owens can fucking go, and that he's had some of the best matches, since he's arrived on the scene. He's had some of the greatest moments and best matches. He was the very first Universal Champion. People forget that. so it's good to see him. It's good to see him still like he doesn't have to win the title, but seeing him in a title shot, I think it's great to see that because it's necessary. It's where he needs to be. I think overall he's the best thing WWE has. Like as far as in the ring and on the mic, like I think he can have just as good as match and have just as good as promo as anybody. I do think obviously he's a better heel. I would like to see him find more of that like almost like like still do the heel stuff, like still do the stuff that got you there and be a face. Like there's a way to do it, but seeing him to do the I'm here for my family. Like it's not the Kevin Owens that I'm here for. Like I want to see that snarky piece of shit, that's willing to do anything to win, not the guy that's fighting for his family. That guy does not interest me at all. Like I want to see the dirty, low down, do anything to win that match. Power bomb you on the apron, like do whatever he's got to do. That being said, Kevin Owens, Bray Wyatt, Otis, all three big boys, all three have had prominent storylines lately. So I just want to say 2021, Thick Boy Nation, we out here. We taking over.
You forgot about another name though. You got Big E, who's getting his first chance for a spinoff into a singles run. So it might be a really fun year in 2021. But you had so many points there that I want to first hit with the Kevin Owens. I agree with you that I'd rather Kevin Owens try to retain as much of the heel qualities while still being a face in a lot of these rivalries. But if the other option is some other wrestler trying to be the John Cena face, I'd rather have Kevin Owens' version of it. So it's not my favorite version of Kevin Owens, but when I think of the alternatives, I'm perfectly fine with them having Kevin Owens in that role. It just, you got to do what you got to do with the roster that you have. You mentioned Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns not needing him, which is probably true. Although I wonder how much Roman Reigns' confidence comes from the fact that he can fall back on Paul Heyman. I know a lot of people think if it's the other way, that it's like the moment you have a bad promo, Vince is going to, yank the cord and just pull Roman off the mic. But I think there's always that benefit. There's that relaxation that if, you need to get that, character over, Paul Heyman's always there to do it. But Roman's proven, no, I didn't need that. And then the second one, storyline-wise, why you need Paul Heyman is because as much as we might want Roman Reigns versus The Rock to be the WrestleMania match this year, if that falls through, number 2 is Roman Reigns versus Brock. And having Paul Heyman there keeps that on the table. And so that's the number one reason why he still needs Paul Heyman. He just doesn't need Paul Heyman to be his mouthpiece the entire time. But I think it still works to have Paul Heyman in his corner to make sure you have that backup plan, because you never know when either The Rock can't make it, if there's not going to be a full crowd, The Rock's like, ain't showing up. And Vince's like, it's not worth paying you $25 million to do it in front of some LED boards. So I think it's smart to keep him there. But you are right. Like, I don't think it's all that important for Roman to have Paul Heyman there, even though I think it was a smart move at the beginning. I think it gave us that entry point into the character. The character was sold before Roman had to do a good promo, and it took him a little while. Like, he had to get the training wheels off, and sure enough, he's been amazing. Who knew he could be a great heel? Not like anybody's told Vince that for years.
Well, and I'm going to say, need is the, I don't know if he needs Paul Heyman, but I think it's beneficial. I think that Paul Heyman, you got to remember, Paul Heyman isn't only a mouthpiece. He's his own character. He's a character that yes, that's nice, Wade. He's a character that has existed in this character universe for 20 plus years. And I think that there's always an element of story that is there's potential with Paul Heyman's presence being there. And I think also it shows a different quality of Roman, other than just it's not just that he's learned how to talk on the mic. Like, everything about him is better since Paul Heyman has been with him. And it's, you have to wonder how much of that is Roman, how much of that is Paul Heyman's presence, but also, look at the other guys that Paul Heyman's been with. what you can do here is use Paul Heyman's status to boost Roman's even further. You know, Brock has always been the biggest name that Heyman's been tied to, but he always had a little bit more control over Brock. And what you kind of saw in this match is he doesn't really have control over Roman. He's there to help him, but he doesn't have like he doesn't have the reins on him. and and I think that you can kind of see this just with Heyman's performance at ringside in this match. You know, it's something that I think there's a whole other world of opportunities if you keep Paul Heyman in Roman's corner.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it is just simply having Paul Heyman there to make the faces that he makes when Roman Reigns is ripping people to shreds, which, you know, is invaluable. There's no way to like figure out how good Roman could have been without Paul Heyman there, particularly in the early matches, to make that face and to help propel the character into being, this isn't just, you know, Roman's, you know, whatever version of an Attitude Era, like he's not even a real heel turn. It was like you needed Paul there, who Paul has watched Brock Lesnar just massacre people for years. For Paul to watch what Roman's doing and be appalled at what's happening it was so important for the character that I agree with Wade that he probably doesn't need him now, but I still think it was a smart move at the beginning, and it's definitely worked out well for everybody. Next up, I do want to talk the other, you know, really big moment was the return of Charlotte Flair, which, you know, who would have guessed? Just as we're getting close to that, you know, due date with Becky Lynch, it's like, oh, Charlotte's back. I would have never guessed she would have planned it that way. But I do think it was a smart move. I mean, it's way better than letting Lana get back into that match. Charlotte and Asuka teaming up to take on Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. They end up winning the women's tag team championship. And, you know, there are other belts happening. We know what's happening with Sasha and Carmella. We'll get to that in a bit. I will just say, as you know, a little bit of a spoiler, I care much more about this than any other women's rivalry. Immediately throwing Charlotte in there, where I can't watch Lana, so I didn't care. But Asuka and Charlotte going up against Nia and Shayna, like, that's the Haas battle. That's the just badasses of the women's division going at it. Like, who's the face? Who's the fucking face there? Even a returning Charlotte. It ain't Charlotte. I'm excited for that match. Like, I want to, and this one was obviously the first off, you know, Asuka and Charlotte get the one up. I do want to see a rematch of this. I want to see where that goes, because I think those four, you know, either can tear the house down, or, you know, Nia Jax can tear somebody's shoulder off accidentally. Whatever it is, it's going to be a good freaking time. How excited are you guys, not just for Charlotte's return, but for the pairing of Charlotte and Asuka going together as tag team champions?
I'm here for it. I think that they have good chemistry together. I think they have typically had a good chemistry together historically, as far as opponents. So seeing them together works. And what do you mean you can't tell the faces? Charlotte's smiling. That's how you know she's face. It's pretty apparent. Go back and watch her entire career.
She smiled through a lot of her heel run. It's like this. It's a shit-eating grin, but
there's the smile, and then there's a shit-eating grin. There's a smug. It's very. Come on, go watch wrestling. And I thought the match was really good, even, you know, despite Nia Jax's presence in it. And then I think that this is 2 for 2. Lana has a great role of getting hurt at the right time with kayfabe injuries to make somebody else's moment.
Yes, those were kayfabe. It wasn't from going through a dozen tables. Kayfabe.
I think it's kayfabe. I don't think I don't know. Is she actually hurt? Who knows? She should have been hurt months or like weeks ago. So, but like the injury of like in the Royal Rumble that allows Becky Lynch to come back and win the Royal Rumble or come in and win the Royal Rumble, and then getting injured makes room for a Charlotte Flair return. I think Lana's found her niche, and it's getting hurt to put other people over.
That's fair. Wade, you're always the one who I can't read. I can't figure out anymore. You know, does this interest you at all? You'd be the one who, even with the big return, even of the pairing of, two really badass women's wrestlers, you'd be the hardest one to sell. Are you sold on caring at all about the women's championship now that Asuka and Charlotte have the belts?
No. Yeah, the tag belts just really mean nothing to me right now.
Okay,
On
Vince.
on on
Jesus Christ.
on either side. Well, it's his fault. It's his fault.
It is. It
Um,
absolutely is his fault.
like I would be more interested if I knew it wasn't just a throw them together really quick. I hate two big superstars thrown together to
Oh
make a
yeah.
tag team to win the belts.
Oh yeah. It's the worst. It's the worst.
I can't stand it.
I think it's good when you have no other tag teams. I think the only time that's like really bad is when they're going up against established teams that have been winning forever, and all of a sudden two people who have no chemistry are just beating them a week later. That really sucks. They're going up against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who are also this just throw them together, and now you get to see who are the better tandem of single stars that have matched up with another person to try to take the tag belt. I think that works. I'm fine with that in that context only.
Yeah, after you get rid of the only actual like tag team of the Iconics, just to
Maybe they should have been better.
mix
Maybe they
up
should
some
have been
other
better.
tag team.
Maybe they should have been better.
They're great.
I would have accepted the win if Lana would have come out and like helped them win to get the belts. Just because like she goes through
That's the worst
9,000
pick.
fucking tables.
That's literally.
Worst
I'm
pick
sorry.
I've ever heard.
Wade's like, I think this would have been a lot better if you just worked some Lana into this wrestling match.
We need more
Yes,
Lana.
then it's all for nothing. While her getting put through all those tables was all for nothing. Then cut the poor girl loose of her contract and let her go to AEW. Then
It wasn't all for nothing. It was a build up to the Survivor Series win. Now it's all for nothing. Everything from here on in is all for nothing.
oh okay.
That's fair. All right. So I was going to go with a couple matches, which one of them I might have made the argument it was all for nothing, but you know what? We'll skip those for a second. We'll go with how they kicked off the show, which I know, people complain a lot when you get the championships at the beginning. I will save my judgment for a bit. In the past, depending on the circumstance, I've enjoyed it. And in this case, you'd have to tell me that, this is bad because it's devaluing the WWE Championship. But in terms of the match itself, I loved the face-off with Drew McIntyre, AJ Styles. I loved the way AJ Styles sold for Drew McIntyre. I enjoyed the chop when AJ just falls out to the outside and collapses. I was having a damn good time. I was not upset by the match going on first. I was only upset by the fact that The Miz got involved with the Money in the Bank that he should have never had in the first place, and then ends up losing, and all it does is take away from what was interesting. I mean, I don't know how interested I am in Drew McIntyre going up against a guy who I didn't know his name was Omos. Is that really what they named this guy? Shit. Yep. I was very confused by it, but I was still excited.
His real first name, I think, but
I was still excited. Literally, the only thing that ruined this match was that cash-in. That I don't know if you just want to tell me that was the best way to stop whatever dumb story they were doing with The Miz. Fine, but now it's probably going to be The Miz facing Drew McIntyre at some point in the near future. I don't need any of that. I didn't need these two involved. They stopped what was a good match, and the surprise factor didn't matter to me. What did you guys think of this match, the way it played out with The Miz cashing in his Money in the Bank? We'll start with Wade.
What's up with heels cashing in their contracts in a non-heelish way? We all know that you wait until they get the shit beat out of them at the end of the match to cash in. Like, come on now. We all know that. We've been here before. We all know that.
I think in fairness, Miz has a much better chance of running up the ladder than he does of beating up either a completely wiped Drew McIntyre or AJ Styles. So I will say in the Miz's case, probably made the right move, even if it didn't work out. Going probability here.
And now it's just stupid to have him won the contract from Otis. To take it from Otis and then do nothing with it is just stupid. That's bad writing. That's short-sighted bullshit.
I'm actually that made me overall. It took away everything else that I actually really enjoyed about this match. But it made me kind of forget all the things I enjoyed. And it's not even that like I want to see Miz become the champion. I want whoever has the Money in the Bank contract to become champion. If it times out at the right time, it's the Miz. I'm fine with that. I'd prefer that than a bungled, stupid cash-in that doesn't win a title. Because I think that Money in the Bank is one of the things that is like my favorite thing that's in WWE. I think it's one of the most fun factors of WWE. And since I've
Yeah.
gotten back into watching it, like, you know, the last 5 years or whatever, the Money in the Bank, I think Dean Ambrose is probably the last like successful cash in night of. I think he was the last.
That's crazy to
And-
think. You might be right. That's ridiculous.
Might be right.
And then I think from there it was like you had
Baron
Corbin, who looked like a
Brock.
dummy. Brock, who I'm sorry, I didn't know you could just run down in the middle of the fucking Money in the Bank match and just claim that you win it. And then like Otis winning it, like we talked about, this is like, yeah, I like Otis, but the way they're booking him, they're not going to book him to win the title in the next 12 months. So don't give him the briefcase either. You know, you want like
Daniel Bryan.
A Daniel Bryan, or even like I wouldn't even mind like I don't know, like a Sheamus or somebody who's like had the title before, you know, and it's always better on a heel, because it is better to see that you know, evil, shitty, sneaky cash in. You know, the first cash in is maybe my favorite, but it's probably the second best cash in of Money in the Bank, which was Edge after Cena defended the title in Elimination Chamber, and was in the match the whole time, is covered in blood, and Edge cashes it. That's how the Money in the Bank should be utilized, you know. And then, you know, probably the most famous cash in is Seth Rollins at Mania, like that, which is also great. But like having somebody cash in at the TLC pay-per-view just to fuck it up is a really stupid usage of the Money in the Bank.
Yeah, I agree with all your points except for the one you guys are making about Otis. I don't think he can do a long run. I'm perfectly fine with him cashing in a Money in the Bank, getting the belt, and even if it's a week and he loses it, that's fine. That is much better than having JBL give it away in Wrestler's Court. Like, that storyline was awful. The cash in was awful. They are wasting. Like, I don't even like the Miz, and you're wasting his time by putting him into a situation like this. I think that Otis, even having a short term run, you know, it's hard to compare him to somebody like Mankind. You know, at Mick Foley getting his first run, but like, you can find a way to make a guy like Otis be that, like, it's you know, the way you guys are talking about him, where he's this underdog. You can play that up for him to have a short reign where he gets to cash in the Money in the Bank successfully and then have him lose it pretty quickly. And that adds to Otis's character. That adds to the build you can do with him going forward. I'm
not disagreeing with that. My point is that the way they book Otis and write for Otis, he is not going to be a champion. Like, that's my point. Is it's not that he couldn't be a champion with the talent he has. It's that they wouldn't know how to make him a fucking champion.
I was also still fine with him winning the Money in the Bank. I was immediately not fine with it when I saw they weren't going to let him cash it in normally. Once the Miz got involved, I was upset. But I wasn't like I know you guys had said it pretty much when it happened. I didn't agree. I thought it was perfectly fine for somebody like Otis to get it, as long as you knew that was kind of going to be the outcome. Not like take it away from him because we realized in post this wasn't what we wanted to do. I feel like canceling it was so much worse.
Wade and I knew this was going to happen. We talked about this, I think.
Well, I'm glad you guys have finally figured it out. We can't guess any fucking thing else that happens in wrestling, but I'm glad you guys knew this one was going to happen. So I think we can move on from that. The next one I want to talk about, do we want to go Sasha Banks and Carmella, or go the Hurt Business getting the win over the New Day?
I didn't watch either of those, so you pick.
We can do either. I didn't hate either of these either. I mean, like, I think that the character change with Carmella is like, I'm guessing what Emma was supposed to be like years ago,
probably,
and probably like 3 other characters they bailed on before they ever let him.
They kind of did it with Lana a little bit, like. But I think it's worked well. You know, I think that, like, Carmella doesn't put on like notably bad matches. I think she's got a good moveset that she can hit well and can wrestle, and her new character works for her. And
I think the only problem is Vince keeps calling her Summer Rae.
You know what? Yeah, that's a good end cap for this segment.
I think the biggest problem for me is I think I like where Carmella's going. I'm not going to relitigate the fact that I just haven't cared about what Sasha Banks has been doing. At least she is the Sasha Banks Bayley tag. I feel like there's a way to recover with Sasha Banks. I'm not sure there's a way to fix Bayley at this point, but I think everything makes sense in terms of how they're acting, how Carmella's acting. Everything that was the words, the actual writing for what they did to build up the story was trash. The way they had the champagne bottles that Carmella's breaking over Sasha, like none of it actually made sense. And that's even when they cut out what I assume was a couple bad promos on either side from these two wrestlers. Like they cut out all the bad stuff and there still wasn't anything good on that promo package, which I feel like I say way too often about Sasha Banks promo packages. Like, I like if you kind of squint at it, it looks like they're doing it right, but give these people something that they can actually like hook onto. And if you're going to have Carmella come, at Sasha, like have an actual plan, have a real story. And I feel like they start with the framework and they never get anything past that. And then they're just like, go out there and wrestle. That's what I felt watching that video package and watching, because you think of Carmella, like it's like she sounds like she's nailing the character, but she didn't say anything in that promo package that made me want to watch this match.
Yeah, that doesn't mean she's not nailing the character. It just means the writing sucks. If anything, makes it even more of an impressive performance.
It's just like anything else. Like I can't just keep giving credit to wrestlers that I'm like, you did it as best you could, but also this really doesn't matter. I'll still, enjoy when you finally wrestle on Sunday. Like, particularly with, whether it's Carmella, definitely, like as much as it's a good moveset, it's capable. It's not exciting. And Sasha can be exciting, but you need somebody else who can go in the ring. And that's not Carmella. So they couldn't put on a match that could overcome the shortcomings of the build-up in the feud. So that's where I landed with it. Like, I like the direction. I just don't have any faith that they're going to make anything worthwhile, which is why I said earlier, I'm more excited about Asuka and Charlotte teaming up than I am any of the other women's feuds happening right now in WWE.
Yeah. Are there any other feuds besides those two storylines?
I think right now, and then there's obviously Bayley on the outside looking in, and I haven't watched the weekly shows, so I have no idea. That might actually be the only feuds happening. But the other important feud, or at least as important now, I want to get Wade's opinion on this because he was very upset about Retribution, rightfully so. It was awful, and I felt like my biggest problem wasn't even that this is a crappy stable; it was that they were getting in the way of the Hurt Business, which I feel like each of those guys were putting together something really, really good. I started enjoying it. Yeah. Even Shelton Benjamin, who has just not been good for a very long time at WWE, they even got him in the right place and being a great part of this stable. And so now to have them go up against the New Day, particularly as Big E is starting to spin off and, Paul Heyman challenged him to actually do something outside of the New Day. I'm excited for what Big E's going to do. And I'm also excited for this match. So it was good to watch that play out. And, even Cedric Alexander, who can go in the ring, but has almost no personality, they finally built something for him. He's got this cocky persona that's going to possibly get in the way of the Hurt Business, taking all the titles, which is what they're doing right now. They're about to have all the gold, which means I assume they're going to have to go after Drew McIntyre's on Raw right now with the WWE Championship, right? I'm not losing my mind. That means if they're going after Drew, I think that's a good setup. That's much better than the Miz getting in Drew McIntyre's way. I'd rather see the Hurt Business and Bobby Lashley, because that last match with Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley was hella good. It was one of the best Bobby Lashley matches I've seen in a long time. Well, I guess I'll just start with Ethan since Wade decided not to watch this match. Ethan, what'd you think of the Hurt Business? And then, after that, we can talk about the New Day and kind of what their direction might be going forward.
All right, so I guess Wade's decided that his presence is no longer needed. It's good.
He'll be back.
It's like every wrestling fan ever. He'll be back. I like the Hurt Business. I like this faction. I like that they have gained legitimacy with the titles. I also like the pairing of Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, of I mean, like this whole stable is very cool, just from the I guess different era of wrestlers that of wrestling that each of them are coming from.
Yeah.
And like you said, with Cedric Alexander, who has just like lacked charisma like crazy. They're like, all he has to do is just kind of like straighten the suit out and smile and look arrogant, and like he's nailing that. That's his entire character. And then, and the finish of the match was interesting, of tagging himself in, kind of, catching Shelton Benjamin off guard, but it, being the right call. Him tagging himself in, runs in, and then gets the pin. So I think it's great. I think that it is also really good timing with where Big E is going, and it being, very likely that there's going to be a big split off with the New Day. And that was it. It's still Talking Smack, right? They didn't rebrand the name of the talk show.
No, Talking Smack, and it
Okay.
exists again, which I have not actually watched since they brought it back.
But but yeah, that bit with him and Paul Heyman, where it's just this very like somber, almost kind of tone, as he's explaining, that he, he's not going to be remembered as a part of the New Day. He's going to be remembered as Big E, and kind of launching him in that trajectory is a very cool thing to see. He's got a cool, a good program going right now with a guy like Sami Zayn. I'm really excited to watch that match, actually. Sami Zayn versus Big E. And yeah, and I think it's also the right time for the New Day to lose the tag titles for the sake of that kind of collective storyline to move forward.
Yeah, I'm happy with it, and I still can't believe how successful MVP has been coming in, sort of as a wrestler. He's had wrestling matches, even had some title runs, but him being able to just breathe life into 3 other wrestlers, and like, at that point, Bobby Lashley, what was he missing? Mic skills. Cedric Alexander, what is he missing? Mic skills. What is Shelton Benjamin missing? He just paying attention and being actually aware of what's going on at a wrestling show. Because I don't know where they were going with Shelton Benjamin before this moment. But even that, like, MVP has been able to be that person who has so much charisma and is at a point in his career when it's not going to be in the ring that he does the best work. But, man, even the moment he came at the Royal Rumble and had the little was it Brock Lesnar that he's selling for, like that attitude, that just presence he brings to the screen. I liked it at that moment. I was excited for it. I wasn't excited for him doing another run as a wrestler, but they put him in the right place, and he's done a hell of a job. And man, there's, if you were putting on a resume of like what you accomplished in the wrestling business, getting Bobby Lashley to be entertaining, like, God, just give MVP some sort of, put him in the Hall of Fame tomorrow. Like, just make it happen, because that's a hell of a job that MVP's done, making Bobby Lashley important again. I think that's all we have. I think, do we want to talk AEW?
I'm good. That was a weird way to cover the show, but I liked it. It was very cover the top 2, top 3 matches and then circle back.
That was a good plan.
I'm glad I didn't look at my notes, because I just would have gotten so fucking confused. And I remembered, I guess, most of what I wanted to say. I think that's really good. We
got about 7 minutes left. We want to hit AEW. Any exciting things happening?
Honestly, I was following AEW pretty well until they started having this overlap with Impact, and I've lost interest. It's literally just like Impact by proxy. It's
No doubt.
It's like social suicide. It's like sitting at the wrong lunch table. Like, just, oh God, no, I'm not gonna hang out.
You're not excited at all.
He hangs out with Impact.
You're not excited at all at the prospect of Kenny Omega and Gallows and Anderson coming together to reestablish the Bullet Club, and that to be how Kenny Omega is, back on top and doing what people expected from him before AEW started?
Let me put it this way. I care as much about that as if my neighbor got a new car. Like, oh, hey, you got a new car. And that's as far as it goes. It's literally just like, oh, that's neat. I'm not going to get in the car. I'm not going to drive the car. I'm not going to ride in the car. I'm not going to play with the dials. I'm not going to hook my phone up to Bluetooth. And sooner or later, I'm going to forget that it's even new.
Doesn't even sound like a good friend to you. Wade.
Said neighbor.
Oh, well, fair enough. Wade, you're the resident good brother. You're also the resident Impact hater. So this is a tough conflict for you. Where do you fall on this in terms of, obviously you didn't give a shit about Omega and Don Callis doing the little thing together. But when you saw Omega, Gallows, and Anderson all on the same screen, throwing up the Too Sweet, what were your thoughts?
This shit is unwatchable.
I, for some reason, thought we were going to get a curveball there, but nope, that was just a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. They'd hit the fucking bird right in front of home plate, which is what Wade usually throws.
Wade,
That's all I got. That's all I got.
The big unit, Wade Christensen.
That's all I got, man.
All right, that's
Fantastic.
fair. Honestly, I didn't watch enough of what was going on. I equally did not care about Impact. I was excited when I saw the picture, but I think all of the news I had read before that was like, these are like one-offs, which as much as it seems better to like get away from Impact as fast as possible, if there's like a long-term back and forth where Gallows and Anderson get to wrestle as a tag team consistently in AEW, I'm actually super excited for that. Because I was really upset when I found out they'd made the bad decision of going to Impact in the first place. So, hearing that, I was like, I don't have to tune into Impact as long as bringing on the good wrestlers to AEW. That's not a problem for me. Like, I'm not worried about that. Now, if it becomes this long-term connection and all of a sudden you have, co-creative with random guys from Impact coming over to AEW for no reason, very quickly I will be upset. But if you're just going to give me the best and,
you just scared the shit out of me when you said that. I didn't even think that was a possibility. Co-creative with Impact?
I'm not seeing anything that would give us that sign. I'm just saying, like, if there was something where they do have to, because, if you're sharing wrestlers, it's like, oh, we're sending you over, I don't know, Eddie Edwards. That sounds like a made-up name. That's not a wrestler. But, like...
I think it's a wrestler from, like, the
It's
80s.
totally a wrestler. It's a wrestler from Impact, actually. My point being, if you start bringing those guys... Yeah. He was a TNA champion at some point. If you bring those guys to AEW,
so is Rich Swann.
And you got to let them do their crappy promos on AEW TV. You have to figure out how to book matches with AEW talent that allows Impact to keep whatever, their vision is. Yeah, screw that. That's awful. But if you're just bringing guys I know can work and I know can match up with Kenny Omega and have Gallows and Anderson facing off with the Young Bucks, like, I'm all for that. But once they told me it was kind of like a one-off, it's like, well, I have no reason to pay attention because now you're just trying to get me to show up and watch Impact for a week. Not going to do it. And until they have that Gallows and Anderson versus Young Bucks match, I'll just wait. I'll wait for that pay-per-view, and I'll watch it and still never watch Impact. That's it. So good job trying to trick me. You didn't. You only tricked Ethan for 1 week. That's it.
Good job trying to trick me.
Sure, that's what it was all about.
Well, it was about getting people to tune in Impact. It was about people who I know Wade has stayed on the Twitter account. I don't know how much Ethan is seeing the people that just constantly, if you go through our Twitter feed and you see people talking about like, no, actually Impact's good. You guys haven't watched in so long. It's like, no, I turned it on a couple weeks ago. Trash. Utter trash. Like, and now this has been a while. This has been a year, but like, it's not like it's the last time was like in 2010. Like, nope, it was recently and it was still not good. Like, you're not going to trick me. And Kenny Omega, of all the guys, he's probably the one at this point, as much as I enjoyed what he was doing in New Japan, has been the least effective at entertaining me on Wednesday Night Dynamite. So the wrong guy to be like, yeah, but we got Kenny. Like, that's cool. Whatever. I'm going to keep watching Wednesdays. Watch Cody. Watch John Moxley. Watch Sting, I guess. But
yeah,
like, I'm definitely not going Tuesday night to watch
Mac,
that.
Mac, you need to stop before we have a moment of clarity and stop watching wrestling altogether.
No, I mean, this is probably the most positive we've been on a show. Even some of the big 4 pay-per-views, we'd have like at least 3 matches where we were just crapping on it. This was probably one of the best pay-per-views. Well, until we trick you. We start with you come in positive and then we say something negative. You're like, I think negative too. I don't really like that segment anymore. You do that every week, man.
You give me different perspective, you know? What the fuck is so wrong about being able to change your opinion on a dime? Like these assholes who commit to one fucking thought and just go through it for the rest of their life?
Well, it would help if we actually made you're just easily pushed to either side.
I'm persuadable. All right? I just don't care. I don't care. It's fun. It's wrestling. It's a toy.
Ethan just almost had a moment of clarity and realized he doesn't even care about wrestling.
Yeah, fuck, you almost got me. Don't. Not today.
And that's the perfect way to finish. We hit the hour mark, and I think we talked about without anything from AEW that really stands out other than shitting on the Impact connection for a little while. We'll probably be back. When's the next AEW pay-per-view? Is it in like February? Is that the next one?
January, February.
I think they're having one up next where it's like on Wednesday. They're having, but like they do those so often. I don't count them as pay-per-views.
No, I like an actual pay-per-view. Isn't the next one? Was it Revolution?
Like Full Gear. Well, maybe Revolution. Yeah,
I think Revolution's next. I think that's like middle of January, maybe early February.
We'll figure it out. We probably won't be back until Royal Rumble unless WWE keeps trying to mess with us and throw in another pay-per-view between now and then. But that's all we have.
New Year's Evil, NXT TakeOver.
Well, okay, that counts. So we'll probably be back for NXT. Once again, I'm not sure if Wade will, but he's been pretty consistent now that he has the fancy light and he looks pretty. Wade's going to be back to continue building as an influencer. He's going to keep working on that. So he might actually be back. We'll be back to talk more wrestling at some point. And we didn't do it this time. We didn't do our favorite wrestling we watched recently, but that's because we actually watch good wrestling on Sunday night. We watch a man lit on fire. We watch Randy Orton murder a man. And that's all we could ask for from WWE right now. So that's all we have for this episode of Making a Mark Wrestling Show on the Tell Me More podcast. Later, folks. And the